The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences.
It's time.
Ding, 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 ding.
Someone forgot to bring the bells.
Again.
Anyway. So, we're back.
And it is hot.
In the middle of the heat wave.
Ugh.
It's kind of hard to even get a straight answer from all the weather folks, too.
That I know what's going to happen.
Well, the new line is it's, global warming, climate change, whatever the fuck, they're calling it now.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why it's so frickin' hot, apparently.
Because of climate change?
But I did see something that looked like there was a high-pressure system just basically covering the entire continental U.S., the southern side.
Does that ever happen?
I don't know.
It's like this everywhere, right?
No.
You said it's the whole U.S.
Well, the southern half. So from Southern California all the way to Florida, it looked like. But even that could be a lie. I mean, not that I'm saying it is. I'm just saying even that could be a lie because, the only thing that I've particularly observed is that there is a great desire for no one to be self-employed or employing small numbers of people. So, in that case, then people are more easily controlled, right?
So your whole thing, and you were talking about this earlier, your whole thing is you think that the desire is just us for working for just some giant companies.
Preferably one.
One company. That's not even possible.
Sure it is.
One giant company.
Yeah.
How would that even, what would that look like?
Well, you get all the tools who...
The tools being people?
Just want power. Who think that they
you're
are...
calling them tools?
Who think that they are better than everyone else. Because that's a hard concept. We all have equal value even though we're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very hard concept. So hard that even the people that say it don't necessarily believe it.
Well, I feel like the people that say it never believe it.
Yeah, maybe they do, maybe they don't. And so, just from my observance in my career, in my growing up and watching, other people, their families and how they survive and stuff. So basically, if you have a skill and you work really, really, really hard, there's only so far you can go. I think my parents probably went about as far as you can go. You want to be quote unquote successful, you need to get dirty. You need to do dirty shit. You need to be doing stuff that's considered amoral and illegal.
To get
bigger.
Right.
Real estate development's one thing. Gotta know a person that's trying to develop some property. Straight and narrow kind of guy. Not really experienced at doing it, even though he thinks he is. He ain't getting anywhere. When I was working, I did a lot of real estate work. Did a lot of litigation against shady places and stuff like that, and those places are shady. They're very successful. They were shady as hell too, until they weren't successful.
By virtue of the litigation?
Yeah, by virtue of litigation and just by virtue of being a lawyer.
But there's always new shady ventures popping up.
Well, the only way to get anywhere is to be shady, and you have to hold hands with shady government folks.
So it's just shady.
Yeah.
Shit's shady.
And it seems that to have any kind of success or amounts of riches, you basically have to be a cunt. And an amoral one at that. So, you choose.
But one would think that people, so they're just ignored?
Ain't nobody going to sit there and talk about how they were marginally intelligent and just shady as hell, and that's how they got all the shit they got. They got all the shit they got because they worked hard, were smarter than the other guy, just put their nose to the grindstone, outworked everybody. That's how I amassed my billions of dollars.
Not shadiness.
You're full of shit. Because if that were true, then the people that pick almonds and fruit and cotton would be the richest people on earth.
And they're not.
Yeah. They're an anecdote. I am the proud child of migrant farm workers, and I got where I am in government because of my hard work that I learned from them. Bullshit. You got where you were because you saw how hard they fucking worked, and you're like, fuck that, I'm going to be a shady motherfucker.
And get ahead.
And they do. Not all of them. Because, there are thousands of them willing to do it. The tools only want a couple.
And the tools are already shady to begin with.
Well, the tools are the progeny of other tools who learned how to get ahead.
So the tools aren't really creating much.
Nobody creates anything, dude. There's in any society, calling someone a leech is actually pretty incendiary. But in any society, I think, just kind of eyeballing or guesstimating, probably about 40% of the people are doing the work.
40?
Yeah.
And the 60% is what, the tools?
No, the 60% are like the extremely old, the extremely young, the people that can't do anything.
And the
tools.
Right.
The tools are probably about, 1-2%?
And they're the richest.
Yeah. Because they think they're the best.
But then they're the kind of people that would sit there and say everyone's equally valuable.
Not necessarily. Think about it. If you were in those shoes, you wouldn't sit there and think that everybody's equally valuable. You'd think you're hot shit.
Well, yeah, but you can't say that shit, can you? Well, I guess you can.
They don't say that to the other tools. Amongst themselves, they're like, oh, we're the best and the brightest. Ho, 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 ho.
The best and the brightest.
Then when they go
I
out,
hate that expression.
Well, it's more bullshit. I forgot if we were going to talk about anything in particular.
I don't remember either.
That's okay. Oh, I hate it when you have a thought and then you just forget while you're talking.
Brain fart.
I don't know if it's even a brain fart. You have a thought and you're like, well, I don't know if everybody's brain works the way I do. I try to formulate stuff while I'm talking.
It's hard to think in this heat anyway.
It's not that hot.
To me, it feels hot as hell to me.
You're like a human koala, aren't you?
My god!
You look down on that poor little animal for only eating one kind of eucalyptus leaf.
It's like a few.
Having like a 5-degree comfort zone.
And then when the bush burns, it just climbs to the top of the tree and burns to death.
That's kind of sad.
Well, they try and rescue the koalas
because they're so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they try and create shelters for them and collect them up to protect them from the fires.
But that's kind of sad. I'm going to climb up a foot and I'll be okay.
Or to the top of the tree.
That's kind of like sitting there going, if I close my eyes and can't see you, then,
Possums do that too. New Zealand possums.
I don't like possums either.
They'll get into it. Well, they don't look like the possums here, but they get into the tree. If they get 2 feet in a tree, they'll stop and look at you. I'm good now. I'm in the tree. I'm like, you're the stupidest thing I've ever met in my life.
Base.
Stupid possum.
What else were we going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it makes it sound like that I have a hatred for all things people, and I really don't. I kind of do, but I don't. Actually, no, I don't. I don't at all. It's more of
I don't understand how you're not angrier.
I'm just tired. I'm tired of being angry.
You just given up?
Yeah. No boss. I'm done. I'm like George Foreman at the end of round 4.
So I wonder what, someone who was, young and and still full of hope, optimism, etc., would think listening to this podcast.
You old fuckers are just
You guys have
failures.
no idea. You guys have no idea.
You're just failures. You're just bitter. You're just whatever.
Well, you're not really a failure.
Oh, sure I am. I don't mind that I am, but sure I am.
So I think, so there's probably like a lot of people running, well, it's not just guys, it's probably gals as well, right? Or do you think it's mostly men?
Well, a lot of men
in this boat.
A lot of men have been emasculated.
So you think there's a lot of men who have just said, fuck it,
Yeah.
I'm not playing anymore?
I don't know about I'm not playing anymore, but yeah, a lot of men have said, fuck it, I'm going to play video game. Well, I guess that is not playing anymore.
Well, it's not just video games, though. It's just sort of like just
Doing drugs.
withdrawing a little bit. What?
Doing drugs.
Oh, maybe. That doesn't seem like it would be much fun, though. The drugs.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, at a certain point, it's like...
Well, yeah, at a certain point, but before you get to that point, I'm sure it's fun as hell.
So speaking of drugs, so I was listening to this thing on the radio today, and it's just, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like the goal with all the homeless who are on the drugs is not to get them off the drugs. So is the goal to just, for them to all just die?
Well, I think you're looking
On
at
the
the wrong. I
drugs.
think you're looking at the wrong place.
Okay.
The homeless aren't the issue, right? If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Homeless are on the menu.
Right.
They're the money.
They're being used.
Yeah,
By the way, they started.
they're the means to the money.
The roundup has started, I think. Like I've noticed it, like in Santa Monica and stuff.
In various
the
places.
police are out and
In various places.
right.
Usually next to a development.
Okay. Yeah. So they're not going to be in any of this. We talked about this. They're not going to be in any of this housing. The housing is going to be completed, and then there's not going to be a homeless person in sight.
It depends.
Yeah.
If too many people leave.
Right. Well, nobody wants a homeless encampment on their doorstep.
Well, yeah. So if too many people leave, then maybe Section 8 housing or homeless housing comes up. But this whole thing about helping the homeless is not about the homeless.
See, I have to believe that like a lot of those men, the young men who are homeless, that they would want to work given the opportunity.
No, because a lot of the young men that are homeless are severe drug addicts and they can't do anything.
I mean, if they're not a drug addict, though.
And there aren't really are there really a lot of young men that are homeless? I thought it was mostly older men.
I've noticed that there's some younger guys. I've noticed it lately. There's a lot of younger guys.
Are they homeless or grifters?
They look homeless.
Yeah, but
I gave a guy like a Gatorade the other day, and then he was like, "Oh, thanks, man." And he's like, "Do you have a job?" Yeah, that was his like next question. Like, he's like, "Do you got any work?"
Yeah.
So that like I can't assume that he's the only guy that would be feeling like that. So if there was work, like why aren't they putting these guys to work?
Well,
I mean, there's plenty.
that's a pretty complicated question, though.
Why aren't they putting them to work?
Yeah.
Because they don't want them to be productive members of society.
Thanks to Henry Kissinger, we've basically gutted almost all means of production in this country, and so the only stuff that we kind of still do is grow food, and nobody wants to pick fruit.
Yeah.
Not for the amount of money that they give.
So you would have to change the whole. There would have to be like a whole lot more manufacturing and new means of production, all that shit. Would have to
I
come back.
don't know if that has to come back, but really what seems kind of like the likely thing that needs to happen is the thing that's probably not going to happen. The tools need to give up some of their money.
For what?
They need to give up a chance of holding on to their money.
And what would be the benefit of that?
The 40% that's working their ass off will get some of it.
Oh, okay. And then maybe there'd be more work opportunities?
Well, I don't know. But again, it's all about amassing as much power as you can, have everybody, and the easiest way to do that is to have everybody work at the company store or work at the company and shop at the company store.
I just find it hard to believe that every homeless person is like, I know that there is rampant drug use. I know that there is also a lot of mental illness, but there's got to be also people that want to work.
Well, sure, life isn't math. That's the scary thing about life.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the tools or someone who's getting by, that's actually the benefit of life. That it's not math.
Okay.
You don't get out of it what you put into it. Because, like I said, if you did, some migrant person who's migrant farm worker would be like making all the money.
Yeah. That just reminds me of that. I don't know. It was some dude in his car. I think he was like, I don't know if he was Mexican or, but he was like, I work and work and work, and he's like, I have no money. You know, I work and work and work, and I can't pay for things. I work and work and work, and he was just like, you know, just venting, right, on a phone video, just saying, I work and I have no money, and I'm like, yeah, bro, I understand. Mm-hmm. I think that's how it is for a shit ton of people.
That's how it is for a lot of people.
They're not, you know, they're doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and not really barely making ends meet, right? So, you know, I don't know what you do. If things get worse, what do you do, right? Nobody's got any fucking savings. Very few people have savings. And, like I'm like, when are the prices of things going to drop? Why is gas still fucking $5 a gallon? I don't understand.
Really? You don't understand?
Well, things are getting worse. People have less money, less shit being bought, but yet prices aren't dropping.
Yeah.
Is it because there's still money being printed?
Well, even if they stopped.
But isn't that just... Look, I'm not an economist, obviously.
Neither are they.
But isn't that basic economics that if you have, like, a large population and there's, like, less money around, less money being spent, then...
Not less money being spent. Less money. There has to be less money.
So there's not less money being spent?
There has to be less money.
Okay.
Don't care about how much you spend. There has to be less of it.
Right.
For it to be...
So they're still printing.
They don't have to still be printing. They printed like 300 years worth of money in like the last 10 years.
Right. So that's why.
That's part of it.
That's why, a big part of why prices are still fucking sky high.
Well, no, prices are sky high because...
Everything is so expensive. I mean, and it's relative, right? You look at the United States versus New Zealand. I think New Zealand's probably more expensive than the United States.
Well, lucky thing that the average Kiwi is smarter than the average American. They'll probably be okay.
That really like rubbed you the wrong way, huh?
No, I just thought it was funny. It didn't rub me the wrong way. I just thought it was really funny.
We had somebody that said that to Dave in a meeting. A New Zealander. Your average Kiwi is smarter than your average American.
Okay.
What a stupid thing to say.
Well, it said that in context of New Zealand doing economically well,
right?
When every other place was starting to show signs of not.
Well, I wonder how he feels about that statement now.
I don't think that person cares about that statement. The only reason why I think about it was because that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But right, I mean, I throw off statements that are offhand in my head, and everybody else like, "Wow, that's a really offensive thing to say."
He obviously didn't think it was offensive.
I didn't think it was particularly offensive.
I know, it's a pretty odd thing to say in American.
It was just odd. Well, I thought it was patently untrue because of what you told me an A was in high school.
Yeah.
Like, right?
79, I think.
That's a C.
If I recall, like, if you were getting 80 and above, I think it's like you're in A territory.
80 is a C.
And I think a C is, I want to say 50 to 60.
That's an F.
And then a fail is like under 50.
Anything under 76.
Like a D.
Anything under 70% was an F.
And maybe it's changed, but I don't think so.
But I remember when we were talking about the grading scale, and
I couldn't believe it.
And you were sitting there saying, well, maybe it's because stuff's harder in New Zealand. I was like, what?
You're like, math's different.
And then, but the funny thing is, another friend of ours said the same thing. He's like, well, maybe stuff is harder in New Zealand. I was like, how does that equate?
Yeah.
It's harder, so we have to grade less harshly. Or is that just a nice way of saying that they're stupider?
Who?
Well, the people being graded less harshly. Right? The whole point of the maybe it's harder comment was, well, because the material is so much harder, we have to grade them less harshly.
I studied for the bar here, and I did law in New Zealand, and I don't think it's easier here.
Well, that's a different comparison, though. We're talking about high school grades,
Right.
and college.
Well, you went to a very good high school. I don't know what the average high school's like.
It didn't matter. The grade scale was still the same at every high school.
Yeah. Why is the grade scale so gnarly like that, though? That's what I don't get.
I don't know. Tennessee decided to be really...
Like, if you're past 50, like, I'm like to me, like, if I'm like, as long as you're past 50, if you're on the right side of 50, then that should be a pass.
In a pass-fail course, maybe.
Like, why have this business where, what did you say is an F?
Anything below 70.
How is that a fucking F? How is 70% a fucking F? Like,
70% is a D.
That doesn't fucking
69%
to me, though, because that's 20. Like, in my mind, that's 20% beyond pass, right? So 70 should be. That should be a B.
That is the lowest D you can get.
That should be probably a B minus, and then a 75 would be a B plus. A minus would be an 80, and then like 90 would be an A, and then 95 would be an A plus.
Now, A was from 100% to 93%, so an A minus was 93%. A B was 92% to 85%.
Yeah, no.
A C was from 84% to 77%. A D was from 76% to 70%. Anything below 70% was an F.
Dude, that just doesn't compute. It does not compute.
And for some reason, high school was... I wasn't like the best high school... You know what? I'm not the best
who
student.
came up with this grading scale of...
I don't know. It was just like that when I was in Tennessee.
So an F is... Say it again. An F is what now?
69% and below.
That's not a fail. In my book, that's... You're doing good.
You're a very generous grader.
Maybe it's changed. I don't know.
But when I got to college, everything was graded on a curve. So they would have
high school is not a curve in the United States?
No, it was just not in my school. It wasn't.
Well, maybe that's why. Maybe it's a curve in New Zealand. Maybe it's graded on a curve.
It could have been.
That would make it different, though.
That curve fluctuated in every class?
I don't know, dude.
I don't either. I'm just asking. Sitting there blowing your nose in the middle of... What is this, like, Major League?
Sorry, bro.
What are you, Bob Euchre? What, are you going to be farting soon?
Yeah, I just, like, it doesn't compute, man. But it's hard to argue that your average New Zealander is smarter than your average American when you start talking about that whole grade thing.
Well, no, it seems like the average American now is pretty stupid, too.
Because I remember, like, my goal in high school was, like, I was like, as long as I get, like, if I get, like, 60 to 60s to 70s, then I'm looking good. Like, I'm middle of the road on my... I'm gonna be getting B's.
Dude, if I brought home...
And if I get like plus 80, that's A territory.
Dude, if I was getting grades like that, I would have been liable to be beaten to death.
Wow. But it's graded different. So, I really need to...
Actually,
I know we're low fact, but I think I need to look into this a little bit more.
I kid, I wouldn't have been beaten to death. My mom stopped beating me when I was 13.
Didn't she just beat you with whatever she could get her hands on?
Pretty much.
I feel bad about that.
Yeah, it wasn't very harsh beatings. It wasn't like Oliver Twist.
Beating's a beating, dude.
Spanking, light spankings.
I never really got a beating.
It prepared me for the beatings I had later in life.
Wow.
What?
I don't know, dude. That just sounds so sad.
Nah. Maybe that's why I'm a big failure.
It prepared me for the beatings I had later in life.
Well, it did.
Well, you didn't put it like that, but I don't know, man. It makes me...
It did. It made me not scared to get hit.
Yeah. You're like, that's all you got?
Pretty much.
It's like, my mum can give a better beating than you.
I remember thinking that one time. I was like, dude.
That's funny, bro.
My mom punches harder than you. I kid. My mom never punched me.
She just whipped the shit out of you with...
My dad has.
So you got beaten by both your parents?
Beaten.
In a loving way.
Beating's not very... It's... I think beating is really kind of
Did I only ever got that with the rubber scraper or the wooden spoon?
Rubber scraper? What the hell is that? Oh, like the
cake
icing?
implement? Yeah, the icing implement, yeah. Or a wooden spoon, and a few of those got broken on my ass.
I had friends, I knew kids that got beaten with not hammers, coat hangers, electrical cord.
No. Dude, that's just... Like, all of that just sounds horrific.
I got hit with a wiffle ball bat once.
Man, I guess I was pretty unscathed as a kid.
Yeah, that's because you had, like, Caucasian parents. Caucasian parents from a non-belligerent country.
Probably.
I mean, like, when's the last time your country was in a war, right?
Vietnam.
How many, what, they sent like 5 people over there?
What? World War II, then.
Okay.
Like when the whole country was involved, World War II. That's a little while ago.
Yeah. It's like, what, 80 years ago?
Yeah. My grandfather was in North Africa.
Ugh.
He was a mortar man.
Yeah. What a shitty job.
I think he was good at math. He's good at trigonometry, so...
Still a shitty job.
He was so young looking.
Oh, we just watched that Peter Jackson retouched, recolorized documentary with
What's it called?
They Shall Not Grow Old.
They Shall Not Grow Old, yeah.
What? You want to say it, don't you?
Right. This is Dave's review.
What a piece of shit. It's a fucking waste of time.
I'm not going to say it was a piece of shit, I'm not.
Well, yeah. It was terrible.
Well, I had a couple of naps, so... It's kind of gnarly, though. Some of it's gnarly. The footage is gnarly.
Well, it's actual footage. They just,
It's colorized.
Recolorized and add sound and stuff on it, and I was like, eh.
So probably all of the stuff was not recordings of those actual men then. It was probably actors doing their actual lines.
No, I think it was people just recounting. It was probably interviews of people.
From World War One.
Yeah. I mean, it probably wasn't current because, right, the movie came out in 2022. So
right, but they would have had to have interviewed
those people
them.
would have been like 104.
They would have had to interview them like years and years ago.
Probably 50 or 60 or 70 years before.
And then what did they do? They just did how did they make all the recordings sound so damn good?
Well, I'm pretty sure they could just
clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been all shit that was in public domain at the time. I don't know, but I didn't like it very much. I'm not. The funny thing is, I love documentaries, but I could never stay up for them.
Right.
And this documentary was so bad, I couldn't fall asleep.
Oh, I didn't have any problems falling asleep.
Yeah, you look like a cat, jittering around, dreaming about catnip or whatever.
I think some of it was a little bit disturbing, quite honestly.
Well, if you think about it, it's all disturbing.
Yeah.
Warfare isn't pretty, and that war was pretty ugly.
And I thought that the end was very telling. They go back, nobody wants to talk about the war, nobody gives a shit.
Hey, my favorite saying about the VA, or about that, is that's one of my favorite jokes.
Give me the joke, Dave.
Well, nothing's too good for our veterans, and at the VA, nothing is exactly what they get.
I mean, that's basically what they said at the end. They were like, nobody wanted to talk about it, and they couldn't get a job.
Yeah,
ex-servicemen need not apply, and so they were all joined up, right? Because that was like their patriotic. They were told it was their patriotic duty, but then after the war, no one gave a shit about them.
They were like, "Ah, sucker."
And when I saw that, I was just like, man, people suck. People suck.
Yeah, but we all think we're great, so...
So it's okay?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think people need to clean up their act.
Nah.
Seriously.
No, why bother? That's you're walking into the realm of utopia there, man.
I just find it.
That's why communism is so popular.
The idea of like not giving a shit about what somebody did in a war is like, I find weird. Like I like it doesn't quite make sense to me. So you're not going to recognize what somebody did when they're fighting for their country. You're not going to try and help that person.
Are you speaking directly towards me, or
I'm kind of speaking to myself
in a metaphorical, objective?
Like, are you going to try and take care of those people, those men that went and, fought for their country? I mean, come on.
Well, it kind of depends.
What do you mean?
Well, in a political sense, take Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
George W. Bush was in the Air National Guard, and he learned how to fly F-105s, maybe, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Son of,
George H.W. Bush.
Who was a congressman and...
He was a pilot, right? Well, no.
Well, his father was a naval pilot, too. Naval aviator.
He was a pilot as well. Yeah.
And then you have Al Gore, whose father was a senator, and he was a...
Journalist?
I don't know if he was an actual combat correspondent, but yeah, his job was to be a journalist, so he wrote stuff for Stars and Stripes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I guess it was the 2000 election.
Yeah.
So when it was on, I believe it was, what's his face? Oh, I forget his name. The guy whose movies never make any money.
Will Ferrell?
Yeah. He was doing like...
That's funny that I would think that.
He was doing kind of like a Weekend Update type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was comparing the two, right? And so he said, well, they're both veterans. George W. Bush protected the state of Dallas from the Viet Cong. And Al Gore was a combat correspondent in Vietnam.
Okay.
So I was sitting there going, you're kind of like, you're tipping your hand here.
Right.
Of course, at the time, I was a stark raving Democrat, so I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Right.
But at the same time, I also was like, you're kind of tipping your hand here.
They're both protected positions.
Very protected, and I really like the way George W. Bush. I just thought it was funny when someone asked him
in a debate.
No, I don't know if it was a debate or something. They're like, how come you didn't volunteer to go like, whatever. And, I think his answer was like, look, I did pretty much what any young man would have done if their father could have helped him out. I said, Daddy, I want to join the National Guard.
At least he was honest.
But then there's like what, Teddy Roosevelt IV? I don't know. He might have gone to Vietnam too. He was a Teams guy.
Wow.
So okay.
Did he get injured?
I don't know. He's a stockbroker.
And he was in the Teams.
Well, he wasn't a stockbroker while he was in the Teams. That'd be kind of weird.
Was he a stockbroker then in the Teams, or Teams then a stockbroker?
Well, he was in the Teams when he was young.
Right.
So, like in the 60s.
Right.
So I think he might have gone to Vietnam.
It's kind of gnarly, man.
As a Teams guy.
I've met a couple of those Vietnam vets, and they did that shit, and those guys' bodies are fucked up, dude.
Well, it depends on the guys. Yeah, I've met some guys that went to Vietnam.
Remember Mike from my neighborhood?
Yeah.
His body's fucked up.
Well, war will do that to you.
I haven't seen him around. I have to find Mike.
The writer guy?
No. He's a...
Oh, it's a different guy, right?
Different guy, yeah. You met him only a couple of times.
Oh, I know. I remember we talked about
Dude
him.
can drink beer like I've never seen in my life.
Yeah,
I'd be on my second beer, and he'd be on his 12th beer.
Yeah, not a. I never really developed a. That's the weird thing.
I've never seen anybody that can drink like that. I was like, man, I'm a freaking lightweight. I'm just a piece of shit. I can't drink.
I always am jealous about the people who seem to enjoy alcohol as much as they seem to do, because I can't. I don't.
Yeah. Well, I think in his case, he probably drank just because his body was so jacked up.
The marijuana never really sat well with me, so
Now you're super allergic.
if it's I suppose it is a gateway drug because I couldn't get past that gate, and I didn't want anything else.
That's why I find it funny that my friend thinks that we would be sitting here smoking weed. I'm like, no, that would be a very different podcast.
I did have loads of morphine, but I didn't like that either.
That would be a podcast of you being sick for 35 minutes.
Just
I don't know
throw it
that
up.
people would want to listen to that.
Well, there's some, dude. There's
a market for anything.
pretty much, and there might be people that just want to hear some middle-aged dude
Vomiting?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Anyway, so today's podcast has been pretty inane.
Inane and sweaty.
Speak for yourself. I'm not sweating over here.
I'm sweating.
That's just weird. It's usually the other way around. I'm really sweating up a storm.
I don't like this heat.
It's not that hot.
It is that hot.
It is not.
It's hot. It's damn hot.
Anyway, thank you for continuing. If you lasted this far, hats off to you.
Yep.
Please like, subscribe, do all the stuff that all those other people say that you should do to make their podcasts all popular.
Make us famous.
I don't know if I want to be famous, but I'd really like a lot of views.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.